The Timeline Lie. Alan Watts on why you feel you're falling behind. Have you ever had that suffocating feeling of being behind in life? As if everyone else received a secret map and you were left behind, lost, trying to guess the next step? Your sibling already has a solid career, their own house, maybe kids. Your childhood or college friends are getting married, traveling, celebrating achievements. And you? You're still trying to figure out your next move, feeling like you're always running to catch up with something, but not knowing exactly what. Does it sound familiar? It's as if there's an invisible timeline, a cruel ruler with well-defined markings. Career by 25, marriage by 30, kids by 35, financial stability by 40. And when you don't fit into that script, shame starts to creep in. Guilt, the feeling of failure, and the worst part, you don't even know if you wanted all of that, but still, you feel wrong for not having it. Maybe the worst part isn't even the comparison with others. Maybe it's the silent pressure from your own mind, that corrosive thought that whispers, "You're falling behind." And what makes it all more unbearable is when those who should support you, your parents, your friends, look you in the eye and ask, "And you? When are you going to get your life together?" As if you owe some schedule you never chose to follow. But what if I told you that all this suffering comes from a lie? That you are destroying yourself by believing in an illusion that was never yours? What if the anguish of being behind is a symptom of a sick system and not a failure of yours? Alan Watts said, "Life is not a journey. If it were, the goal would be to reach the end. And in that case, the best music would be the fastest. But life is not about arriving. It's about being. It's about dancing while the music plays. And if you're dancing to a different rhythm than others, maybe the problem isn't your rhythm. Maybe the problem is believing that everyone should follow the same beat." This video is a direct conversation with you who is tired of feeling insufficient, who looks around and sees others moving forward while you feel stuck in quicksand. I'm not going to offer you cheap motivation. What I'm going to give you here is something much more powerful. A rupture, a new lens, a surgical cut into this cultural anxiety that taught you that life is a race and that you are behind. You will realize that what you call failure can actually be a sacred time of maturation, that being lost might be the only way to truly find yourself, and that others aren't as far ahead as they seem. They're just following a script they don't even know if they chose. So breathe and prepare yourself, because what you're about to hear may forever change the way you see your life. The industrial illusion, the trap of the assembly line. Have you ever wondered why there is so much pressure for your life to follow a certain script, with such specific deadlines, almost as if you were a product on an assembly line? Because that is exactly what modern society has done to human existence. Alan Watts saw this with brutal clarity. We have turned life into an industrial project, timed, full of mandatory stages. And if you don't keep up with this pace, you are seen as defective, a deviation, a failure. From an early age, we are taught that the value of a life lies in the milestones it collects. The diploma, the job, the marriage, the home ownership, retirement. Each of these achievements is treated as a mandatory station you need to reach, and within a specific time frame. The longer it takes you to reach these stations, the more shame you feel. Because it's not just about what you're living, it's about how you are being evaluated by others. But what if this schedule is an artificial construct? What if it is a trap? Watts invites us to observe that this linear progress mentality is an illusion inherited from an industrial era where everything needed to be measurable, predictable, and efficient. We applied this logic to machines, then to companies, and now to ourselves. We have become managers of our own time, demanding from ourselves emotional productivity and financial success as if we were walking spreadsheets. You are not a cog, you are not a product, and your life should not be measured by efficiency metrics. The pain you feel for being behind is a direct result of this perverse logic. But here's what no one has told you. Maybe you are not behind. Maybe you are exactly on time in your unique journey, but you are measuring yourself with a ruler that was not made for you. And as long as you keep trying to fit into this mold, you will continue to feel broken. Have you ever stopped to think about why society fears those who step off this script? Because people who do not follow the assembly line are dangerous. They question. They live authentically. They remind others that life can be more than hitting targets and following deadlines. And that is frightening. Watts saw the root of human suffering precisely in this desperate attempt to achieve an illusory security. He wrote, "This insecurity is the result of trying to be secure." The more you try to fit into an artificial system, the further you distance yourself from your essence. The more you chase social approval, the more you disconnect from your truth. And here's the paradox. You only find peace when you stop searching for it in the wrong places. You only find meaning when you stop trying to meet expectations that were never yours. Life as music, the addiction to the future. Music is significant not for reaching its last note, but for what happens between the beginning and the end. If the goal were the final note, composers would only write endings. And yet, you live as if you are always trying to get there, as if full realization were at a fixed future point that will justify your entire existence. But what if that point never arrives? What if it doesn't even exist? The truth is this. You have been conditioned to see life as a project, with goals, phases, achievements. But Watts confronts us with the idea that this is an illusion. Life is not a straight line with a glorious end on the horizon. It is a process, an event, an ongoing experience. And the more you try to treat it as something to be completed, the more you destroy it. Since childhood, everything has been organized to reinforce this structure. School to get a diploma, diploma to get a job, job to earn money, money to buy a house, house to achieve stability, stability to die in peace. You go through each phase with an anxious eye on what comes next. And in that process, you are never really present anywhere. Your existence becomes a constant rehearsal for something that never debuts. Alan Watts denounced this modern mind addiction to projecting life always into the future, as if the now were just a corridor to what really matters. He wrote, "If happiness always depends on something expected in the future, we are chasing a will-o'-the-wisp that ever eludes our grasp. If you are always waiting for the next achievement to bring you peace, you are chasing a ghost. The moment you reach it, it changes shape. The next job, the next relationship, the next goal. And the present is wasted, ignored, reduced to a tool. Everything you seek, freedom, love, joy, security, can only be fully lived in the now. Not in the idealized future, but in this moment. Yet you are so busy trying to get there that you don't realize you are already here." Watts compared this logic to an orchestra that speeds up the rhythm of the music to get to the final note sooner. You wouldn't hear any beauty, you would hear chaos. And that is exactly what is happening with your life when you live in "I need to get there" mode. You are not late, you're just dancing to a different song. And maybe, just maybe, you're playing the only melody that truly belongs to you, while judging yourself by the rhythm of others. The silent drug, comparison as self-torture. If this constant comparison with others is destroying your joy, why do we keep doing it? Have you ever noticed how comparison entered your life without asking for permission? It doesn't come as a declared enemy, but as a habit disguised as curiosity. You open Instagram, and in a few minutes, your mind transforms into a silent courtroom. You compare yourself to someone's body, another's success. And when you close the app, you feel an invisible weight in your chest, a mix of frustration, envy, and inadequacy. This is the most consumed drug of our time. comparison. And the most dangerous part is that you don't even realize you're addicted. Alan Watts said that the greatest tragedy of the modern mind is that it lives trying to prove itself real through the eyes of others. We confuse being with seeming, he said. That's exactly what happens when you measure yourself against others' lives. You cease to be the subject of your own life and become a spectator of a narrative that isn't yours. Comparison is an addiction because it feeds an endless cycle. Every time you feel inferior, you seek new references to try to inspire yourself. But this inspiration is toxic because it doesn't come from genuine admiration. You never win because the game was created to keep you dissatisfied. Watts saw this as a modern form of psychological imprisonment. He wrote that the human mind is the only instrument capable of torturing itself with images it invents. You suffer from an idealized version of reality that doesn't even exist. The success you envy is a carefully curated showcase. The happiness you project onto others is a filtered, illuminated, and controlled reflection. Think of the people you admire or even envy. You see the moments of victory, the rehearsed smiles. But what you don't see are the sleepless nights, the silent crises, the paralyzing doubts. You compare your internal chaos with others' organized facades. This is an unfair comparison. Watts said that comparison is the thief of joy. What you call being behind is often just a difference in pace. Each mind has its own time. Each soul matures at a different rhythm. But the system doesn't want you to realize this because comparison is the engine of consumption, productivity, and obedience. The more you compare yourself, the more you feed the machine that profits from your sense of inadequacy. The echo of the bubble, confronting family projections. Have you ever wondered why the people who should support you the most, your parents, siblings, relatives, are often the ones who pressure you with questions that weigh like stones on your chest? So, when are you going to settle down? When are you getting married? Phrases like these are constant reminders that, in the eyes of your family circle, you are off schedule. But here's the truth no one told you. These pressures are not about you. They are projections of the insecurities, fears, and regrets of the very people who are pressuring you. Alan Watts knew this when he said that people live seeking security in forms and models they themselves do not understand. They just repeat them because that's what they were taught. The pressure you feel is not personal. It is systemic. Your family members who have the fixed salary, the stable career, or the relative who has it all figured out, the one with the paid-off mortgage, may be trapped in lives they would never choose again. But they need to justify their own decisions. Pressuring you is an unconscious way to validate the path they themselves took. Watts saw this as trying to control the lives of others to avoid facing the emptiness of one's own. When your relative compares you to the high-achieving cousin, she is trying to silence a doubt that screams inside her, "What if I had chosen differently?" This is the hidden root of family pressure. Fear. Fear that your freedom will reveal their prison. Fear that your courage to explore the unknown will dismantle the lie they repeat to themselves every day. They want to know if you are still within the bubble, because if you escape, they will have to face their own dissatisfaction. As long as you keep trying to justify your journey to people who live inside that bubble, you will feel behind. Watts reminds us that you cannot wake someone who is pretending to be asleep. Many of these people do not truly want to understand your journey. They want you to return to the known, predictable, acceptable path. That's why setting boundaries is an act of love, for yourself and even for them. Saying, "This is not open for discussion," is necessary. Because your life is not an argument to be defended. It is an experience that only you can live. 4 attitudes to dismantle the existential trap. The truth is simple but brutal. No one is going to free you from the anxiety of being behind. Only you can do that. And freedom comes from practical, conscious choices made every day. Alan Watts offered paths, real tools for you to free yourself from illusion and start living with presence, authenticity, and lightness. This part is about disarming the silent bomb that lives in your mind with actions you can practice now. Execute a digital boundary. Stop consuming comparison. You have no idea how much social media is distorting your perception of reality. As Watts said, you are trying to compare other people's stage with your messy dressing room. Reducing social media consumption isn't an escape, it's mental hygiene. You need to protect your mind from the continuous distortion that comparison feeds. Mute profiles that evoke more envy than inspiration. The peace you seek isn't in the next post, it's in the silence you avoid. Redefine success based on your values. Write this question on a piece of paper right now. If no one was watching, if I didn't need to prove anything to anyone, what would a well-lived life look like for me? Answer with brutal honesty. You'll realize you've been feeling behind on goals that were never yours. Use this realization as a liberating foundation. From here, you start to build a life that makes sense for you, not for the audience. Practice radical presence, living the now. Anxiety only exists in the space between now and the idea of what should be happening. What is really missing at this very moment? Are you safe? Are you breathing? Watts stated, "The reality of now is bearable. It's the imagination of the future that destroys you." Start cultivating moments of real presence. Stop rushing through life to reach what you don't even know if you want. Because what you're looking for, peace, clarity, meaning, has never been in the future. It has always been hidden in the now. Set boundaries, firmly and compassionately. You don't need to explain your life to anyone, period. When someone asks, "When are you getting married?" respond, "I'm building a life that makes sense to me, not following a social timeline. I appreciate your concern, but my journey isn't open for discussion." It's not aggressive, it's mature. You owe nothing to others' expectations. Watts said, "Freedom begins when you stop asking for permission to be who you are." This kind of stance not only protects your energy, it inspires others to do the same. The final question, the treasure of lost time. Now imagine that all the anxiety, the comparison, the guilt of being behind completely disappears. Silence, no pressure, no demands. In this clean space, the question that Alan Watts loved to ask arises. What would you do if money were not an issue? It destroys the illusion. It exposes that much of what you call goal is in fact conditioning. You work for money, but what is behind that means what you really want: freedom, creativity, connection. When you answer honestly, you realize that maybe you have never been behind. Maybe you were just following a path that was never yours. What you call stagnation may be incubation. What you call failure may be refinement. What you call lost time may be silent maturation, invisible to the eyes, but essential for you to truly blossom. How many people do you know who arrived quickly, who achieved everything on time, but by 40 are exhausted, trapped in lives they hate, hostages of choices they never questioned? As Watts said, "If you say that getting the money is the most important thing, you will spend your life completely wasting your time." The truth, you are exactly where you need to be, to become who you are destined to be. But this process only happens when you stop chasing a borrowed idea of success and start dancing to your own music.